Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Friday Ramblings. We are here. It is Friday. It is time to ramble. So let's get going with it. We're going to discuss the New Japan Pro Wrestling top title in the promotion, which is the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. But it's got a little bit of a convoluted history to it. So we're going to have to break this down to make sure everybody understands exactly how we have gotten to where we are in 2023 with the top belt in one of the top promotions on the planet. First thing you have to understand is that in its early years, New Japan Pro Wrestling did not have the heavyweight championship that they do have now. In the earliest years, they basically had a mishmash of titles that they had inherited from other promotions to fit their different divisions, including some NWA titles. And it is that NWA link that is important to remember here, because after a certain point in time, New Japan decided that they not only wanted their own belts with fresh history to them, but wanted to immediately establish them as having a prestige parallel to the NWA titles, such as the NWA World Championship. Now, the way they did that was similar to how the NWA was a group of territories with a ruling body, and thus you had the championships that would be defended across the entire alliance, as well as the territories' individual champions. New Japan had the bright idea to have a governing body to establish a bit of in-storyline prestige to them. This is also similar to how the different boxing promotions have their governing bodies that will pick contenders and weigh in on the legality of title changes and whatnot. And so they created the concept of the fictional International Wrestling Grand Prix, usually referred to as the IWGP. This is why in modern times, if you ever look at the champions of New Japan Pro Wrestling, they're not called the NJPW Heavyweight Champion, but the IWGP Heavyweight Champion, because they're the heavyweight champion of the International Grand Prix. Except the International Grand Prix is a fictional governing body created for New Japan Pro Wrestling by New Japan Pro Wrestling, so it's still basically just the NJPW titles. It's a thing. As I said, it's a harken back to the oldest combat sports and the way they would be structured. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to start at the beginning, because the beginning is the place where one should start. On June 2nd of 1983, the NJPW IWGP Heavyweight Championship in its original form was created. Now, the title was introduced in 1983 to be awarded to the winner of the IWGP League, which is now known as the G1 Climax. Now, the idea is, instead of being defended every X number of days like traditional wrestling belts, this would be won at the grand tournament, and you would be champion for at least a year, as in the subsequent years you would defend it against who won the next tournament. In a sense, the tournament became for the number one contender slot, not for the championship itself, or simply the honor of winning a tournament full of strong competitors. So, with that being said, in 1983, the original winner and the original champion of the original version, a lot of original in there, was your friend and mine, Hulk Hogan. Yes, for those of you who only know Hulk Hogan through his pop culture osmosis, various TV appearances and movies that often go direct to video, Hulk Hogan was not just huge in America, he was a bona fide star in Japan in the 80s. Regularly going on tours there even during the height of Hulkamania. And so was one of their top foreign stars. New Japan put its new belt on Hulk Hogan. Hogan defeated Icon Antonio Inoki via knockout in the final. However, a year later, Antonio Inoki would win the tournament and the title itself, going on to defend it twice before vacating the belt for the 1986 tournament because he wanted to compete in the tournament again to win the vacant title, being that kind of athlete. You know, the whole super competitive aspect of it. And thus, in 1986, Antonio Inoki won it technically for the second time, defeating Dick Murdoch in the finals. This would all lead to the next year when the more modern and classically defended version of the IWGP Heavyweight Championship was created, thus deactivating the original. Thus, the 1987 League Tournament is also the beginning of the championship as we know it today. For the record, the original IWGP Heavyweight Championship was held by two different men. Hulk Hogan was the original champion and held it for 378 days, whereas Antonio Inoki was the second and only two-time champion, holding it for a combination of 1,027 days. So here we go. The title that most people think of now when you say the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. As we said before, was introduced on June 12, 1987 in the finals of the IWGP League Tournament. And the title has been represented by 4 different physical belt designs. The last generation belt introduced in March 2008. And is part of the New Japan Triple Crown alongside the IWGP Intercontinental Championship and the Never Openweight Championship. So let's go to our reigns here. Antonio Inoki is your first champion of the new championship, having won it in 1987. I know what you're thinking. Why does Antonio Inoki keep winning all these honors? Well, it kind of helps when you're, head booker of the company, part owner, depending on the exact year. Yeah, Antonio Inoki was not just one of the most legendary wrestlers in all of Japan. He kind of also founded and ran New Japan. So he got to give himself all the tournament wins he wanted. It happens. Still, his first reign would end with a vacating when he fractured his left foot in May of '88. 6 days later, Tatsumi Fujinami would win the title at Super Fight Series 1988, defeating Big Van Vader. However, 19 days later, the title would be held up after a defense against Riki Choshu ended in a no contest. On June 24th, Fujinami defeated Riki Choshu right properly to win the belt, only to decide 285 days later to vacate it so the title could be decided in a tournament, because Japan loves tournaments. So in April of 1989, a battle satellite in Tokyo Dome Big Van Vader defeats Shinya Hashimoto in the tournament final to win the vacant title, holding it for 31 days, and thus being the first American wrestler to hold this version of the championship. He would lose it to Solomon Hashamikov, a heavyweight wrestler from the Soviet Union, aka Russia, in May of 1989. Holding it 48 days before losing it to Riki Choshu at the Summer Fight Series. Riki would hold it for 29 days before Big Van Vader won it back at Fighting Satellite of 1989, amassing a respectable 374-day reign, before Riki Choshu finally won it back at Summer Night Fever 2 in August of 1990. December 26, 1990, Tatsumi Fujinami returns from the past to pick up another title run. This would only last until January 17th, when at New Year Dash 1991, Big Van Vader wins it for his third run with the belt. However, on March 4th, 1991, Fujinami wins it back yet again at Big Fight Series 1991 for his fourth reign, this one lasting almost a year, as at Super Warriors in Tokyo Dome, which was a joint WCW New Japan Super Show, Riki Choshu would win it back, the match also being for Choshu's Greatest 18 Championship, which is good times. Choshu would hold the belt from January 4th until August 16th the same year, when at the G1 Climax Special, Great Muta would win both the Greatest 18 Championship and the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. 400 days later, in September 1993, Shinya Hashimoto wins it at the 1993 G1 Climax Special, holding it until April 4th, when at Battle Line Kyushu, Tatsumi Fujinami wins his fourth title. 27 days later, Shinya would win it back, holding it for 367 days, when the Great Muta, under his Keiji Muto identity, would win it at Wrestling Dontaku 1995. 246 days later, Nobuhika Takada slays Muto at Wrestling World 1996, another one of the January 4th Tokyo Dome shows. As we've said in previous videos, they are quite important to New Japan and our big shows. 116 days would be the length of Takada's reign before Hashimoto would get his third run, lasting from 489 days, which takes us from April to August of 1997, when at the final Power Hall in Yokohama event, Kensuke Sasaki would win his first title, holding it for 216 days before our old buddy Tatsumi Fujinami would pick up his sixth reign at the Antonio Inoki Retirement Show on April 4th. Fortunately, by August 8th of the same year, we get a first-time champion as Masahiro Chono. Ooh, another big name, man. And while of Japanese descent, he is American-born, so he's a nice dual citizenship gentleman. Good for Mr. Chono. Chono would pick up his first title before vacating it 44 days later due to a horrible neck injury. American Scott Norton would win the belt on September 23rd, 1998 at Big Wednesday, defeating Yuji Nagata to win the vacant title. However, at the 1999 edition of the January 4th show, Keiji Muto is back and logs in another 340 days as champion before Genichiro Tenryu picks up his first reign going from December 10th until Wrestling World 2000, yet another January 4th Tome Show. Again, it's basically their WrestleMania. They love having big title changes there. When Kensuke Sasaki, occasionally known as Power Warrior, would pick up his second reign, holding it for 279 days before vacating it due to losing a non-title match with a bit of controversy to it. However, when at the next Tokyo Dome show, it's amazing how they book this stuff sometimes, isn't it, folks? Hey, we're going to vacate a belt in October and take till that big January 4th show to crown the next champion. Kensuke Sasaki would win it back, this time defeating Toshiaki Kawada in the tournament final. 72 days later, Scott Norton would pick up his second win at Hyper Battle 2001, before only 3 weeks later losing it to Kazuyuki Fujita, whose 270-day reign would be ended by an Achilles tendon, causing him to vacate the title. This would lead to Tadao Yasuda picking up the title belt at Fighting Spirit 2002 in February, managing only one title defense in 48 days before Yuji Nagata wins his first title at Tucon Special on April 5th, holding it for over a year, officially 392 days, when on May 2nd, Yoshihiro Takayama wins it at Ultimate Crush, this match also being for Takayama's NWF Heavyweight Championship. Hiroyoshi Tenzan would win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, but not the NWF Heavyweight Championship, on November 3rd of 2003 at Yokohama Dead Out. However, 36 days later, at the December 9th Battle Final 2003, Shinsuke Nakamura would win his first championship. And at the January 4th Dome Show, Wrestling World 2004, he would unify it with the NWF Heavyweight Championship, leading to that title's final retirement. Now remember this, folks. The Nakamura unified the title with another title once. That's going to become important later. I promise you. Unfortunately, after 58 days, Nakamura had to vacate the title due to various injuries, preventing him from being able to wrestle. And so, on February 15th, 2004, Hiroyoshi Tenzan picks up his second title, defeating Genichiro Tenryu in a tournament final. However, after 26 days, Kensuke Sasaki would pick up his fourth run with the belt, holding it for only 16 days before Bob Sapp would win it at King of Sports, holding it for 66 days before the title being vacated when Sapp lost a K1 fight to Kazuyuki Fujita. Kazuyuki Fujita would then turn around and 3 days later defeat Hiroyoshi Tanahashi to win the vacant IWGP title at the Crush 2 event. From June 5th to October 9th, Fujita reigned supreme, but Kensuke Sasaki was not done yet and won the title again at Pro Wrestlers Be Strongest, holding it for just over 2 months. December 12th, at Final Battle 2004, Hiroyoshi Tenzan picked up his third reign, lasting for 70 days for Satoshi Kojima at the New Year Gold Series. Won his first run with the title. Kojima also putting up his Triple Crown Heavyweight Championship that was used primarily in All Japan Pro Wrestling in this match. 83 days later, Hiroyoshi Tanzan wins the title back at Nexus 6. Before Kazuyuki Fujita wins the title for the third time at Summer Fight Series 2005. However, after 82 days, he ran up against the next big thing, the Beast, Brock Lesnar, who journeyed from America after parting ways with WWE, winning the belt at Tucson Saozu New Chapter in a three-way match also involving Masahiro Chono. This is where we get a little bit of fun, folks, because on July 15th, 2006, after a 280-day reign, the title was vacated due to Lesnar refusing to return and defending it. Lesnar was still in possession of the physical championship belt, and he would in turn jump ship to Antonio Inoki's newly created IGF, Inoki Genome Federation, where they would promote it as the true IWGP Heavyweight Championship, leading to a split in the continuity of the titles. Brock Lesnar claims that it is not that he refused to defend the belt, but that travel issues prevented him from making his commitment that led him to have a bit of a squabble with New Japan. Now, this would lead to him defending the belt in IGF, still referring to it as the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. This would last for 629 days total, starting from when he won it on October 8th in New Japan, up through him losing the IGF version to Kurt Angle in June 29th of 2007, who would win the belt at Tucson Bombayi show in Tokyo, Japan. During this time, Kurt Angle appeared with and defended the title in TNA, successfully retaining the championship against Samoa Joe, before returning back to IGF promotion on February 17th, 2008, where he faced off with Shinsuke Nakamura, who was NJPW's current IWGP Heavyweight Championship, to unify the belts. But how did it end up on Nakamura's waist? Did he win it right away? No, unfortunately, immediately after New Japan vacated it, they took their time crowning a new champion. This would, in fact, only be 2 days after declaring it vacant, when on July 17th, 2006, Hiroshi Tanahashi would pick up his first title at Circuit Turbulence 2006 event, holding it for 270 days before the New Japan Brave Tour saw Yuji Nagata win the New Japan version of the IWGP Heavyweight Championship on April 13th for the second time. However, 178 days later, Tanahashi won it back at Explosion 7 in October, holding it for 88 days before, what do you know, that January 4th Dome show creeps up again at the second event to be promoted on the Wrestle Kingdom 2 banner. Shinsuke Nakamura would get his second run with the championship. And of course, as we just said, this was the point at which the split with IGF remerged when Nakamura defeated Kurt Angle. This means Nakamura has merged two different belts, or really more like one and a half, into the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Shinsuke Nakamura's second reign would last a total of 114 days before Keiji Muto would grab a fourth run with the belt at the 2008 New Japan Brave Tour in Osaka. 252 days later, Tanahashi would get his third reign at Wrestle Kingdom 3. It is their WrestleMania, folks. It's just going to keep coming up. Holding the belt for 122 days for Manabu Nakanishi. Won the title on May 6, 2009 at the Dissidents event, this being his first reign. However, he would only hold it for 45 days before Tanahashi would win it back at Dominion on June 20th, 2009. Unfortunately, 58 days later, Tanahashi fractures his eye socket. That is a bad injury, folks. And was forced to vacate the title. Our old boy Shinsuke Nakamura shows up in Kobe, Japan on September 27th, 2009, defeating Togi Makabe to win the vacant title. However, 218 days later, Togi Makabe would get his revenge and win the title for the first time at Wrestling Dontaku 2010. Yes, folks, we're up to 2010. We're almost there. Bear with us. Togi Makabe would drop the belt to Satoshi Kojima at Destruction 10 on October 11th, before Hiroshi Tanahashi would get his fifth reign at Wrestle Kingdom number 5. Holding the title belt for over a year, 404 days total, before Kazuchika Okada, that's right, the Rainmaker is on the scene, would win his first title. Holding it from February 12th to June 16th, when Tanahashi would notch up a sixth reign, managing 295 days, which brings us from June 2012 through April 7th to 2013, when an Invasion attack, Okada wins the belt back. This time taking 391 days with the belt, leading us to Wrestling Dontaku 2014, where the phenomenal one, AJ Styles, picks up a reign with the New Japan Pro Wrestling title on February 11, 2015. Good boy. However, from February 11th to July 5th is all the time Styles would get with the belt before Kazuchika Okada gets his third reign, because the Rainmaker will bring the title reigns. 208 days later, on April 10th, Tetsuya Naito wins his first run with the belt, but it only lasts 70 days for Okada's fourth reign. He is the Rainmaker, and this time he would notch 12 defenses over 720 days before finally being slain, this time by the infamous Kenny Omega, on June 9th, 2018, Dominion in Osaka-jo Hall, in a no time limit 2 out of 3 falls match, in which Omega won 2-1. 209 days later at Wrestle Kingdom 13, that's actually the first time that's popped up in quite a while. Let's see, that's, yeah, we made it from 5 to 13 without any title changes. Good on them, not getting too predictable after a couple years. When Tanahashi would win the belt from Kenny Omega. However, it only took 38 days for Jay White to switch things up, as the Switchblade himself became the new champion for the first time at the New Beginning in Osaka. This led to the G1 Supercard in April 6, 2019, where for the 5th time in New York City, USA, Okada brings the reign. 274 days later, however, at Wrestle Kingdom 14, Night 2, Tetsuya Naito would defend both the IWGP, would put the IWGP Intercontinental Championship on the line in order to get a shot at Okada, and Naito wins. He defends both belts simultaneously, losing both of them to Evil, aka Takai Watanabe. on July 12, 2020 at the Dominion in Osaka-jo Hall in Osaka, Japan. However, Evil would only hold on to it for 48 days before Naito got his third reign at Summer Struggle in Jinku, getting both this and the Intercontinental Championship. At Wrestle Kingdom 15 Night 1, however, Kota Ibushi not only wins both belts, but finally does what should have been done a long time ago and formally unifies them, creating what we technically have today, which is the rechristened IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. He would hold this new version of the title from March 4th, 2021, officially starting the unification era and the retirement of the Intercontinental Championship as a separate belt. For 31 days until on April 4th, Will Ospreay won it for the first time at Sakura Genesis. However, 46 days later, Will Ospreay suffers a neck injury and vacates the belt. On June 7th, the belt is recrowned for the first time on Shingo Takagi, having defeated longtime champion Kazuchika Okada to win the vacant championship at Dominion in Osaka-jo Hall. However, 211 days later, Okada would start his first run with the World Heavyweight Championship when at Wrestle Kingdom 16. See? They were doing good, and now they've fallen into a pattern again. Just like WrestleMania. I know I keep making those comparisons, but everybody else does. Yep, at Wrestle Kingdom 16, Okada's reign would run. However, it only lasted 159 days before at good old Dominion in Osaka-jo Hall. You know, it shows up a lot too. That's a big event for them as well. Jay White would get a run as well. Holding it for 206 days before the current champion Okada, who won it back at, take a guess, Wrestle Kingdom! Who'd have thunk it? This being on January 4th, 2023, and he is your current champion. Now, so far, Shingo Takagi has the longest reign under the World Heavyweight Championship era, or rather, most combined days, at 211, but Okada is only a couple days away. And actually, by the time you see this episode versus me pre-recording it, he should have already surpassed that record. So Okada will be your longest running champion of the current world champion era. As far as the classic, or it was simply a heavyweight championship, oh look, Okada would also hold it with 5 reigns totaling 1,790 days. However, the most number of reigns was 8 for Hiroshi Tanahashi, who is also your second place combined days total at 1,396. So there you go. Biggest company in Japan, their most important title, and the many belts that have been unified into it. The IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Now we'll probably dip a little bit more into some other New Japan stuff. Because as I said, I mean, you've got WWE, you have CMLL in Japan, AAA in Japan, New Japan, All Japan. That's pretty much your big 5. I know a lot of people love AEW, but look, it's the number 2 wrestling promotion in America. Yes, they've done deals in Mexico and Japan, but I'm sorry, folks. AEW is less than 5 years old. They're still building their legacy. You know, I really can't put them in a top 5 above places like, you know, your promotions in Mexico and Japan that have been doing it for decades and simply have more time to build their legacy. Not personally slighting AEW in and of itself. I certainly rank them above things like TNA Impact, which has been running for a lot longer, but has kind of started out at a good level and just kind of wavered ever so slightly up and down and has been on a downward trend for a while. Still, we're going to go back to New Japan in the future months. Look forward to it. For now, though, we're settling down. I'll see you next Friday. Stay happy, stay healthy, and stay subscribed to Roulette Productions. Bye-bye, folks.